All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Junior Ibarra, and we have another episode of Des Moines Metro Market Update from Team IRG here for March 2025. I also have my colleagues and partners here.
I'm Ryan Coy, Director of Operations for Team IRG, and also,
I'm Anthony Simon. I am one of the real estate agents on the team, kind of our
Stat Master.
apparently stat guru.
Yes, indeed. Stat Guru is what your shirt says. All right, Anthony,
All
let's get
right,
right
so
into it.
we're just gonna dive right into the numbers. Caveats again for this, if you're new here, is that we are looking at Des Moines Metro core, which is about a 14.5 mile radius from the geographic center of Des Moines, looking at the basically just the what you consider Des Moines proper or Des Moines Metro. We're looking at single family houses only. So diving in to what we're seeing, median sale price. We were trending very typically like what we see in spring. We kind of come a little bit down a little bit in winter, start picking back up in that March timeframe, March, April. It's been March these last few years. Looking back, last year we were up about 5% overall. For median sale price here in Des Moines, and currently we're sitting at about 3% higher year to date than we were last year. So things are just doing a nice steady growth, which is what we like to see. Don't like to see those 15% jumps, 11% jumps. Like to see that kind of 3 to 4, 5% growth year over year.
Yeah, and that's what's beautiful about being where we're at, Des Moines Metro in the heart of the U.S. We don't see the huge, iterations of the roller coaster price differences that happen in some of our, East Coast city partners and West Coast and whatnot. So, and again, this year what did you say it's trending this year compared to last year, Anthony? 3%?
3% year to date.
Okay. Yeah, so 3% year to date. So we'll see where we finish up as it looks like we're, trending on the upward scale here with the green line there. So Des Moines Metro as a whole, strong and price appreciation, good for anyone who's a homeowner. And that's why, as they say, don't wait to buy real estate, buy real estate and wait. And Des Moines Metro holds well in that statement.
Absolutely. All right, so looking at days on market. So for anybody who's been in the market the last few years, 36 days seems like a crazy long time. However, looking even back, I mean, so we're getting past the normal times and becoming the new normal. But previously, a couple months on market over the winter time was not unusual. Then we look at 2021, where the slow time was 2 weeks, and then the fast time was 1 day on average. So we're currently sitting about 3 weeks on market for kind of median days on market. That's nothing slow, but it's definitely a little bit slower than what we've seen the last couple of years. But it's just something to anticipate, especially with new listings or if you're a seller, knowing that, hey, things are getting back to what they kind of used to be a little bit speed-wise for things selling.
Hey, Junior, you remember back in like 2017, 2018, what would we've always put as far as like average days on market for our sellers? I always felt like we put 90 days was a common thing to see, and now 36 days still seems fast,
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely. Yeah, no, yeah. When you and I were doing a lot of in production sales, like, yeah, there was just on average 3 to 6 months, depending on the price point you were in, was normal for selling properties, right? So now, like, and seeing numbers, and when you see something more than 1 month, you're like, oh, what's wrong? Yet that's not a lot of time in most markets, right? Yet it has, like Anthony said, kind of become our new norm for this area. So as you can tell from years prior, so 23 days. What's nice is it's not 1 day like it was, because Anthony, you remember those times too, right? It's like you had to like drop absolutely
Yep.
everything to go show a house, and you'd be competing against like 15 offers, right? So it's not like that either.
And you'd be looking at the house with like six other people. I mean, it was basically like an open house for every listing. And yeah, it was not fun for
Yeah.
anybody
Emotions were
involved.
definitely high during those time periods.
Well, and
Right,
you
but
had to
I mean, oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, and you had to remove all like contingencies if you wanted to win the offer, right? Pretty much like no inspections. I'll even remove appraisal contingency, meaning like if it doesn't appraise, you're coming up with the difference. And so just not the best time when it's that 1 days on market for the buyer. This is like a really good time for a buyer because we can negotiate appraisal contingencies, inspection contingencies, and really truly know what you are actually buying, right? Anthony, any other perspective on that?
Yeah. So something that kind of comes to mind too on the flip side is when we're getting to the point now where there's some people that maybe bought in the fall of 2020 or later and are now thinking about moving again. Like we're getting to that time frame where 5 years people are starting to think about moving and they might think, oh, my house is going to sell in a day or two because that's what I remember when I bought my house. But just being aware of what current market conditions are doing, and what to expect for an offer, like these things are drastically different than they were, thankfully. But just setting those expectations or having those expectations in the right place can mean, you know, can mean a lot. If you think you're going to sell your house in 1 day, and right now it's 2-3 weeks, is typical for the market, then you're going to be very disappointed or very upset when your house isn't selling overnight.
Yeah. No, overall, I think it's just a great market for both sellers and buyers. The other
Yes.
thing that I feel like was happening during that time period where 1 days on market, you would get buyer's remorse because you literally went into this thing like sight unseen, removed all contingencies, and you're like, man, am I making the right purchase? And we saw a lot more deals fall through in that versus in this situation, which hurts the seller because they're like, oh man, I was counting on that sale to then buy my next home, right? So I like the pace and the cadence of what this market is. For the sellers, obviously, it's a seller's market still, so they can capitalize on the premium and the equity within their homes. And the buyers having time to make sure that it is the home that they want to move to and have dinners in and where they're going to sleep with their family and et cetera, right? So great. I think it's a great market overall and lots of opportunities to just move to the next phase of your life, whatever that is, because no one moves just to move, right? And talking to professionals that can help deliver on that vision for you to buy a home or sell a house or sell a property.
Yeah, right now I'm with my buyer clients. We're able to see a house more than once before we write an offer, which is something I prefer and recommend just because, um, I look at houses every single day. Most agents look at houses every single day. Um, Buyers don't look at houses every single day, and the things that they notice the first time through are very different than when they see it a second or third time. And that again, that was just something we didn't have the luxury of for a little bit there, and we're back to able to do that and make better informed decisions. And just everybody's happier long term.
Yes.
Looking at number of houses sold. So we are tracking pretty darn spot on close to the last 2 years, 2024, 2023, as far as our spring market. Started off, I mean, again, for historically, very slow, under about 400 houses a month in January, February. March picked up. We're kind of sitting at just over 600. Year to date totals were within 10 houses being sold, for year to date numbers for the last 2 years. So very flat so far these last couple of years, which again, good compared to some other parts of the country. Other parts of the country are still seeing some downturn, um, just less stuff happening, which is hurting prices. Prices are still pulling back. Where again in Des Moines, we've been steady. We obviously did have a little bit of a pullback from the absolute peak, but we've been steady since then, and prices weren't really affected.
Yeah, pricing, typically, like if you look at 2021, 1978 year-to-date totals and 2022, 1980 to the last couple years at around 1420, that's still 30% less units sold, right? And typically when you have that amount, like even in the stock market, right, 30% drop in the stock market usually also means some kind of pricing adjustments. Yet it doesn't really that didn't happen to us here in the Des Moines Metro because, like Anthony's saying, steady is what we're known for, and that's good, honestly, versus all these roller coaster price corrections and adjustments and this and that, right? So yeah, so you're seeing that again, another just steady market from last year to this year, and kind of the new norm until we see what the next years will bring and what interest rates are doing in the market. They're pretty again steady right now again versus like the 300% increase we saw from 2022 to 2023. I think is when they started really hiking up, and literally every day, every week or other week, it was going up and then up and then up.
Also, not a fun thing to deal with with
No,
buyer
Yeah.
no,
clients or as a seller with buyers.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
very thankful things have kind of steadied off.
yes, indeed, I agree.
So looking at number of houses sold per price point. So Des Moines, again, we're an affordable metro in that 80%, over 80% this last month of homes sold were 450 and under. The vast majority of everything was kind of in that three to $400,000 range, or two to $400,000 range, um, which is unheard of in a lot of places around the country now. But we still, yeah, we just have good affordable housing here compared to a lot of other metros.
Yeah, and you see
I'd be
the
curious what we've
oh, go
seen
ahead, Ryan.
over the past, like, oh, sorry, over the past couple years, how that price point has increased, year over year, as far as where the majority of the bucket where it was probably in the 250, 300, 4 years ago, so you see those prices increase, and that 80% under 450, tells the story.
Yeah, that would be cool to see. Yeah,
Yeah.
you kind of see it there, and then the with the most activity kind of being in that 250 to 350 is kind of the peak areas there within that 80%. So, which makes sense. To be quite honest with you, the houses below 200K are essentially becoming non-existent little by little, as pricing overall in our metro is continuing, as you saw in the other slide, just every single year. It's pretty steady on continued growth here for our metro area.
Well, just looking at it, so for the entire month of March, it looks like we had 39 houses for 150 and under that have sold. Junior, like you've been in this longer than I have by a decent bit. When you started out, was 150 the bottom of the barrel, like non-existent?
Yeah, 11 years ago, like I was doing a lot in the entry level price point, right? And investors. And my average price point when I did 48 deals one year on my own was like 75,000. So that was essentially the norm. So yeah, it's definitely changed quite. You can't buy, a rim or a hubcap for 75,000 right now.
I
So
remember we were selling like fully rehab 3-bed 2-bath houses for, like, we were pricing at 134.9, a lot. So definitely not. They definitely had some appreciation.
yeah, we definitely
Yeah.
have. And
So,
again,
I mean,
and it's not changing. My mentor always says just every 20 years, everything doubles in price, right? And I equate that to like now, not only housing, every 20 years, it's literally just going to be double. But like, even easier is the Subway footlong, man. 20 years ago, I'm aging myself here, but I'm about to celebrate my 20-year high school reunion this fall. And in high school, man, I could buy a footlong for $5, right? And so the 20-year perspective that my mentor always tells me of how everything just doubles every 20 years. It's so true. I mean, a footlong it's $10 or more, right? Like if I'm getting my favorite sub, it's like $13, right, for a footlong. So yeah, it's true. And 20 years from now, what are we, 2025? So 2045, we'll see these numbers. We'll be able to go back and look at YouTube and be like, Yep, everything's doubled. And the footlong is now
Yeah,
$22.
$20 for long. Yeah. All right, moving right along. New listings. Again, kind of the moral of the story has been repeatedly everything's been very consistent. New listings we're seeing about the same number. We had a little bit of a spike in January. I know just anecdotally, we as a team had a really good January and saw a lot of activity. It wasn't just us. I mean, the market we here in Des Moines, we saw a lot of listings hit the market in January. Um, and then it's kind of followed the trend the last 2 months, February and March, for 2023, 2024, very very similar.
Yep, I hope we continue to get more listings. I mean, it'll just help the market overall. As you can tell, when we did hit kind of those when we saw just way more activity, 30% more activity than what we're seeing for units sold, it correlates with obviously active listings. There's just more deals out there, more deals to be done, right? And so that meshes with the active listing numbers you see there in the orange and the gray. So yeah, we could use some more inventory.
Speaking of inventory, so looking at 2025 so far, we are better than we have been the last 2 years. Um, Trending ever so slightly downward. I think our market's been so relatively balanced versus sellers and buyers and like supply and demand that just the small little changes of making this go down or making this go up a little bit. Last year we definitely saw a little bit of an actual recovery in our just total active listings in the market, um, especially compared to 2022, 2023. I mean, we were sitting at a third of what we normally see or normally like to see, for the summertime market here in Des Moines, and now we're clawing our way slowly back upward and sitting at 40% of what we'd like to see.
Yeah. Well, now that I look at this and, with 2024 numbers, 2,066 active listings going into January 2025, as you mentioned, Anthony, our team had a great start to our year, right? That helped, right? Having that many
Yeah.
listings on the market, and we actually had 44 deals pending for January, right? And there was plenty of deals for not only our sellers to have inventory out there to sell their houses, but for buyers to also go look at and put something under contract. So yeah, I like that this number is trending above 2024 numbers, and I hope it continues to trend that way to help our market here.
Yeah, I think the ideal here is we see slow, steady growth. Anytime you see massive swings on this, 2021 saw massive things changing in the market. It went, I mean, a thousand listing swing between January and April, um, is a decent amount, and this usually is a little bit flatter. Very seasonal here in Des Moines, but also just rapid change is never good with real estate, and we're seeing a lot of steady growth in active listings, getting back to the old normal, which
Yeah,
is great.
steady is good in real estate. We need to come up with some kind of saying. I can't come up with it right now on the spot, but we will eventually. All right, Ryan, what else you got to add?
All right.
No, I mean, I think like you say, the steadiness is it's good. I think we're normalizing, right, the market. What interest rates will do will be what interest rates do, and we'll deal with that change when it comes. But I'd be curious for your guys' two thoughts on like the affordability factor of this. Obviously, house pricing is going up and up. What do you think about your first time home buyer, your thoughts on, there's not those houses anymore, like you said, Junior. So what's your thoughts on like the affordability factor for first time
Yeah,
home buyers?
great way to finish it out. I do think, in my professional opinion, we do need more builders out there to kind of build more of that entry level product out there that used to exist, a lot more of, I feel like the 2 bed, 1 bath bungalow with an unfinished basement, right? Um, just because right now there's more of the, okay, 3 bed, 2 bath. 3-car garage or 4-bed, and at this point, everything in that is like 350 on up, right? 325 to 450, and that has made it harder for the first-time home buyer, right? Which trends with the national numbers of the average age of the first-time home buyer used to be in the late 20s, right? 26 to 29, and right now the average age is 38, right? Because pricing's not really going down at all. Rates are a little higher, so affordability kind of gets a little less affordable, right? I guess is the proper way to just call it what it is. And there's not a lot of inventory out there to maybe buy at the 275 to 325 range, right? To get into at least home ownership, which creates equity while you're in that home as prices continue to rise and you pay down your principal to then use that equity to stair step into the next home and then use that to stair step into your next home, right? Like many of us have done. So I'm hoping more builders and developers and the city allows that path and that journey to come into fruition to build some of that product and work collaboratively together. So, and we're working as a team to actually bring some of that opportunity into our metro area with some partners that are coming in to actually make some of that come to life here in the very near future. So if any of you want to talk about that, Anthony's been helping us with those numbers as well as we work in those in that arena, right? So Anthony, want to close it out?
Yeah, I mean, again, affordability is it's not getting better, um, but neither is the affordability for rent. So it's not like buying a house is becoming unobtainable. It's just cost of living has just gone up. I literally had this conversation last week with a friend when we were talking about mortgage payment numbers, and they're like, well, this is maybe what we're thinking, this is how much we want to maybe put down, and we had conversations around that, and I was like, well, just giving you some data points, these are estimates, but at $200,000, currently you're talking about 1,700 to 1,800 mortgage payment all in, principal, taxes, interest, insurance, um, and they're like, that's what we pay now for rent. And I was like, I know. It is probably going to get worse. This is why people buy houses normally, is because they're like, well, we can pay the same thing to buy a house and it's ours, and we build that equity in it, and it doesn't get cheaper typically over time, at least not here in Des Moines. It hasn't historically really fallen, prices haven't fallen off. Um, so yeah, it's becoming harder to get into, but it's still, in my opinion, the best long term option out there versus a lifelong renter. Now, I'm not saying that owning a house is for everyone, but there are definitely some big, large, long term benefits coming from home ownership, and that's been historically, we can see that, and even still to this day, it's still there. So call us, and we can talk to you more about that.
Yes, definitely.
Those
Always talk
benefits.
to a professional, even if it's not us for some reason. You're like, I have my 20-year agent. Absolutely call them. Yet if you want to really dive deep, as you can tell, we like to have conversations around what that journey looks like for you and what's the best path, and then either look at numbers or put you in contact with the right professionals, lender partners, insurance professionals, etc. And we just want to be a resource. We want to provide value in any which way we can. And again, thank you for the opportunity to dabble a little bit here on YouTube. So we'll catch you on the next one. We'll see you.